Our next speaker headed 2 innovation projects about smartphone-based biofeedback in skiing together with Motorola, and worked in various projects on product testing and validation of sports technology. Manufacturer of the world's first fully integrated sensor insole, which turns your shoes into a wireless performance tracking system. Please welcome the CEO of Moticon, Maximilian Müller.
Why did you change it? Okay. Hi, I'm Max from Moticon, and I'm really happy to be here. However, I do feel a little bit exotic. This is first because we're basically a hardware manufacturer, and second, because we're not yet connected to the cloud. So today, I will be talking about a sensor insole that fits into shoes. And I'll show you a little bit of what we're doing in the field of medical applications here. In order to pick you up from where we started, I'd like you to stand up for a second. So don't be lazy, just stand up for a second. First thing you notice is that you're standing on your both feet. That's important to notice for what I'm presenting today. Second aspect, I'd like you to lean forward a little bit and try to mentally dive into your shoe. And hopefully, you will feel a kind of a physical sensation growing on your forefoot, which a biomechanic would call pressure. Pressure is increasing. Thank you. You can sit down again. That's exactly what we are doing with our sensor insole. So you see my colleague here, we measure pressure distribution. So he's like doing high knees on his forefoot, and what we measure is the pressure distribution under the foot. This is the basic measure where you can derive and derive a lot of parameters that are important for gait analysis. So, the sensor insole. It is fully integrated, it is wireless, it does a precise measurement, and it is still ultra flat and flexible. So that's an important thing to know. And what does it measure basically? As we heard, pressure distribution. Also, you can draw conclusions about the balance, left, right, front, back, for example. You can measure body weight, and you can measure motion by gyro and accelerometer, which is also an important measure. We put a lot of effort in making it really usable, and that's not only true for a sensor insole, but for wearable technology in general. So you always start from a functionality point of view. If you don't get out valid data, for example, body weight with a certain tolerance, it's not worth the effort. So we always start from a functional point of view, high quality product. Of course, ease of use and variability, which is hidden down here, is also important, because if you had a very bulky insole, which is not flexible, you cannot really walk on it. And another aspect also is, especially when it comes to consumer applications, the elegance. So it has to be somehow like nice, although it's an insole. And finally, before I come to my case study, which is very important also, durability. Why am I saying this? Try to put your smartphone into your shoe and walk on it for a while, even days or weeks, so see what happens. So it's not about just putting another piece of electronics between some layers. It's a huge integration effort, making the electronics durable, making the sensors durable in walking for hours, months, and even years. So, in summarizing this, what's special about what we call Moticon approach somehow? So there were systems on the market already with cable-bound equipment and data loggers attached to the waist for scientific research. And also like consumer gadgets like the Nike Plus were nice for running analysis, were counting steps. The thing we add on is that we can tell you something about the motion quality. How do you walk? How do you run? And not just how many steps you make. Okay, so this was it about the sensor insole, and now I switch to my case study, just a brief overview about what we're doing and which markets we're into. We do prevention applications, we do training applications in sports, and we do rehabilitation applications on which I'm talking today. In terms of market strategy, we started out in a very narrow niche market where we sell to clinics, researchers in clinics, high-performance sports centers, and the like. So this is a kind of niche market. And we're now into professional applications where we already talk about a few 100,000 customers, physiotherapy, orthotics, and the like. And of course, in the future, we want to go for widespread consumer applications. So my case study is about fracture care. You know, if you broke your leg, basically. And I have an example from a young male who injured his left ankle on a parachute landing. And state of the art is that you nail the fracture with plates and nails, and hopefully it heals pretty well, so you don't have any functional or structural deficiency after the rehabilitation has finished. However, in more than 30% of the cases, patients are running into problems because of overloading, because of inflammations, or anything like that. So there's a great need for enhancing the healing process, one because of a reduction of insurance costs, but also because of quality of life for the patients themselves. So what you need to do is you have to measure the partial weight bearing in everyday life. Also, you have to measure the symmetry of the walk during the rehabilitation period, so you can correlate the healing and the activity of the patient. So what you see here, we simulated a crutch walk, and the graph in the upper area shows the ground reaction forces of the left and the right leg. So you see that the injured leg, which we simulated here, has a much lower loading in the crutch walk than the healthy leg. So kind of a weight-bearing regime you get told by the physician or surgeon or physiotherapist is that you should not exceed a certain limit within the rehabilitation. So in using our tool, you can always monitor and even feed back to the patient on what he's doing. And in doing this, increasing the healing process. Some of the results. So what we've been doing with one of our key customers within the last 2 years is that we extended our core system with some functions to run it for 4 weeks non-stop. So this is really new because there was no data available about weight bearing in daily life of fracture patients or any other patients. First aspect is symmetry. So you clearly can see that in the beginning, the injured leg was loaded was almost not loaded, and the load increased towards symmetry in the course of the rehabilitation process. The second aspect is activity. So counting steps is nothing new nowadays. But during the course of a day, you can really see the intensity of the activity and the loading. And the last aspect, which is very important for the surgeons at the moment, is knowing how much load the patient put during a day, for example, on his leg. So this is what they call histograms. So on the horizontal axis, you see certain loading intervals, for example, 10, 20 kilograms. And the vertical axis indicates the percentage of occurrence of these loading intervals. So if the patient gets told, don't exceed 20 kilograms in the beginning for 2 weeks, so you would see if he really is compliant with this limit. In the beginning, on the left side, there was no overloading, so he was really compliant with the 20 kilogram limit. And after 2 weeks, for example, he's like putting weight on his injured leg, and you really see this, what happens. So my last slide is about, let's go to the cloud, because what we did up to now is just feeding data into a PC or a smartphone and giving feedback to the patient. But what we're looking out for is a new link to the cloud where physicians and patients can always get connected to current state of rehabilitations and assess on upcoming problems also. So thank you. I'm really happy to discuss afterwards, and I finish with another short clip from sports training. Thank you.